Hi guys, welcome back to the third drawing of the Frank Zappa. Um, Actually, a third session, I want to say. So yeah, on this one, I actually put up the real picture so you guys could see it. And I'm starting with blending here, with blending stump, kind of a tool I use to blend things. It's pretty useful, better than using using your fingers for sure, because it doesn't add that oil into the drawing. Just gives it a crisp blending. Because that's what happens. Sometimes people use their fingers and it gets oily, and you can't even really erase it once you use your fingers. It just messes up the whole drawing and paper. So this is definitely a good tool to use if you are an artist. I would say, in my opinion, you don't have to use it, but definitely useful. So yeah, just going around certain parts that need a little smoothing, like the nose, and then underneath his nose, his lips. Some of his edge of his lips are pretty smooth too, so I use this tool for that. And then the side of his face a little bit, and the shadows that are coming off of his glasses are pretty smooth. Also, the way they land on his face, they're very subtle. So later they will get very subtle. If you can see the image, it's very subtle shadow. And then in his on his cheek also, very subtle shadow. And then the whole thing will kind of make sense too as you watch me do things. You'll be able to tell why it is that I do certain things. And then now I'm just kind of working on the background, really just filling in a huge blocks of area, because I like to work in a certain way. I mean, you can almost say I can leave this huge block of gray area to do for later, but it kind of helps my brain to do things a certain way. So I like to work in layers. And here I'm just using a little paper towel to blend the background. Again, just something that came up with over the years with a lot of trial and error. Certain materials kind of blend things a certain way. Like a napkin will have a different blending mode. So, paper towel is what I like it for certain things. So for the background and a little bit for the neck. Again, this is just something that I do. It's not right. It's not wrong. It's just what I do. If you're an artist, it's good to experiment with things. See if something works out for you. You never know. You might come up with something useful that you might incorporate into your drawings going forward. So here, moving on to a 2B pencil to do things a little darker. And I'm using putting a little napkin down here just to help not smudge the picture underneath my hands, basically, because that's a huge problem. I guess years ago, as a youngster, like, I did a lot of drawing and experimenting, so maybe I didn't really care as much. But as you get detailed, as you put more hours into your work, you want to take better care of it. So this napkin just helps keep the picture crisp and clean, and just make sure that unwanted smudging is not going down underneath the picture there. And yeah, just using the 2B pencil here to put to go on to the next level of things. I'm putting down a little darker strokes and marks for the frame of the shades, and just being, taking my time, being careful, not putting things down or getting carried away by emotions, and just putting strokes down, because this is, for me, in this drawing, this is kind of like an exciting part of the drawing, working on the shades, and I've always loved working on shades. But yeah, just taking my time, putting strokes down that actually need to be there. Like I said, I try not to use an eraser as much as possible. So, if I do put strokes down carefully, that means I don't need to come back and erase mistakes. So yeah, take my time, put some strokes down. Drawing is, I feel like, at the end of the day, it's like it's a communication between your finger, your eyes, and your brain, really. And here it's putting things down on paper to tell my brain about the progress and where I'm at and what needs to be done more. And then every shade of pencil, every grade has a meaning. It's like a language, you could say. So when you put something dark, it has a different meaning than something light. And things are, put down to communicate something. Darks are generally put down to communicate some kind of material. Could be a material, but let's say if everything is the same tone and color, darks are put down to indicate some kind of shading or shadow. Then working on his mustache a little bit. So generally now we're trying to go a little darker. I feel like I've done a lot of work with the HB pencil. I've finished that stage or layer, you could say. So I feel confident to go on to the next level. So in this part, I'm laying down strokes that kind of indicate the direction of where his mustache is going. It's not necessary, but something that kind of, help my mind basically organize things, and it just kind of makes him look a little more, kind of realer to me, just to see his mustache going in a certain direction. And then, doing some kind of strokes to follow certain waves, directions of his hair also just kind of helps, visually make a hair look like a hair. At the end of the day, it's not something you do have to do. Sometimes you can always just go and block the whole area with the same color, and the viewer could still tell it's hair, but it's just, some people have a certain style of doing things, and for now I guess it's what I do and what I kind of enjoy doing. Years down the line it might change, you never know. Yeah, so you can see as I'm putting down, certain like hairs, a mustache, certain parts of his frame. You can tell the picture is getting a little more 3D, starting to pop out. And that's just because of the contrast. Contrast makes things look better, helps them pop out. So contrast is a beautiful thing, and that's why you have to, with the experience, you're able to tell what parts to leave light and what parts to darken, and try to avoid a lot of erasing and going back and forth. that helps keep the picture sharp. And yeah, certain parts you just leave them light, like the face, some part of like, let's say his glasses, the reflection in his glasses. You want to be careful when working on those, because you don't want to. You could always go darker, but it's once you put down strokes, you're gonna have to erase things, and you'll never get the true white of the paper back once you've drawn on it. So the lighter parts, you want to be a little more careful when you work on them than the darker parts. Darker parts are a little more forgiving. Yeah, so just working on a little shade of underneath his neck, and you can tell that helps it pop out a little more as I go on. Also, the rest of his neck is a little more darker toned than his face for sure. And we'll keep working on the grades of shade as we go. Yeah, here I'm just trying to block out kind of just huge areas of, because it's almost overwhelming to work on hair, so you have to start blacking out certain areas first, just to kind of help your brain really to identify where things are supposed to go in the hair. And I try to make it look real and put things down where they really are according to the picture. So I could almost go ahead and put down hair strokes just because it will still look like hair, but it's just a personal challenge that I have for myself to really identify where things are and put them down where they belong. It's just a personal challenge. It doesn't really necessarily need to be done per se. But yeah, things are definitely getting a little darker here with the 2B pencil. A lot more contrast happening. And then back to the HB pencil, just to make a little more subtle changes on the guy's face. You can tell as I go slightly darker, things will start popping out slowly, like when I put down the strokes for his cheeks. His smile got a little more realer and more 3D. And then the strokes on the edges of his face just makes him look a little more rounder, gives a little more roundness to the edges of his face. Yeah, his piece of clothing, his shirt, his collars, make it a little dark, a little more darkness in the background. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this part, and I'm just working on the next part, which will be using a little more darker pencils, such as 4B, 6B, and moving on to 9B, which is the darkest pencil I have. So I hope you come back to watch those videos, and I appreciate you watching this. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.